Balotelli, Aguero!
Welcome back to the potty. The boys are back. Back for another NFL chat. Today we're splitting up the episodes, so the NFL in real life and the NFL fantasy is going to be split into two. But we're going to be doing it in one chunk, so we won't know the difference, but you will at home. Big day in Melbourne, actually, for those wondering. We've survived an earthquake. We can say that now. I think it got upgraded to about a magnitude 6, but we weren't really near the epicenter, so we're all good. But that was a bit of a rogue one. Curtis's mum was screaming. Strange stuff was happening, but we're all survivors, and all is good except for Betty's Burgers in Chapel Street. But that's just unlucky for that one. I'll introduce the lads before we get into the week 2 review, where we go through the winners and losers. Pilch, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks, mate.
It's good to hear. And James Curtis back for another episode. How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. Was better before I had to wait half an hour for Pilch, but
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Low blow on the potty, but it was about 20 minutes. But he did warn us at 4:30, so I'll give him kudos for that. But still an interesting act. All right, winners and losers. I won't start this week because I usually start off. I'll share the light. We'll go to Curtis this time. Actually, I think we started with Curtis last time, but anyway, we'll go to him again. Who were your major winners coming out of week 2?
we'll start off with the Ravens and specifically Lamar. First win over the Chiefs and Patty Mahomes, so got to give him credit there. Been watching a few media outlets say that's like a big step, like a big hump to get over. So hopefully sets him up well for the rest of the season, especially given their team's pretty compromised given injury. Second one, we'll go with the Raiders and Carr. They're 2-0. They're looking elite. They've beat Pitt, who actually looked pretty saucy in the first game of the season against the Bills. And I'm going to be bold here and say Carr is a genuine MVP candidate right now. He's thrown for over 800 yards in the first week. He's up there with the big boys, and I've also seen some stats suggesting that over the last 3 seasons, he's in the category of Mahomes and Rodgers, the only QBs to have less than 10 interceptions and over 4,000 yards in a season. So he is a bowler. And finally, we'll go with the Panthers and Darnold, because as well as the Raiders, they're looking pretty elite. They're 2-0. Darnold's thrown for 26 of 38 for 305 yards, 2 TDs, and Darnold's looking pretty solid and a lot better than he was looking at the Jets.
Yeah, I've actually doubled up on your second and third ones there. I had the Raiders in the playoff prediction episode we did before the season. I actually had them just missing out, I think, and I had the Steelers on, I think, the same amount of wins, so they're going to be wild card rivals for that AFC wild card positions, assuming they somehow miraculously beat the Chiefs to win the division. So that's a pretty big win over them. The Steelers did have some defensive injuries. I know TJ Watt injured himself in the first quarter, but to put 26 points up against that defense, it's very impressive. I was really impressed by Henry Ruggs. A bit of a breakout game for him. And I really liked that their attack was a little bit more rounded this week. I think about 4 or 5 blokes had over 3 catches, which is good to see. I hate offenses who just go through one person, and sometimes the Raiders do that because that's not really sustainable in a playoff situation, because they'll just lock down that bloke and you're fucked. But yeah, good to know that they can share it around a bit. And yeah, also the Panthers, division rival, and the Sainers. If they won this game in a close one, I probably wouldn't have mentioned them here, because I think the Saints just had an awful day on both sides of the footy. But the fact that they absolutely pummeled them, I think it's worth a shout out. And I was looking at their schedule, and it's absolutely outrageous. They don't play a team with a positive record from last season till week 12.
Panthers?
So, yeah. So they played the Dolphins in week 12, and until then, they don't play another team who had a positive record last year. So I think their overs and unders right now with the betting agencies is about 8.5. I would be sticking some on the overs on that one because
They're stacked everywhere.
Yeah,
Everywhere
like-
you look, they're stacked.
so that's 11 weeks of playing teams with negative records from last year. Let's say they're already 2-0. Like I could definitely see them going like 8-3, 7-4, something like that. And yeah, to think they're not going to get more than 8.5 wins, I think that would be tough to do. To take a second half of the season capitulation. Obviously, it is only 2 games, so it's a small sample size, but I think it's not a bad shout. And my NFC number 7 in terms of the third wild card had 10 wins as well. So I think they're going to be right in that mix just purely because they've had a pretty easy schedule. And quite frankly, I'm a bit worried for the Texans' anus on Thursday Night Footy this week. Pilchos, who are your winners, mate?
Gonna have to agree with everything you boys have just said because I had Baltimore and Raiders as well.
Yeah, very fair. I think they were the 3 clear winners. Huge monkey off the back for Lamar. Yeah, I'm not coming him doing a handstand into the end zone. Bit of a piss though. Fair play to him. But yeah, 3 definite winners out of that one. The losers, I'll start off with mine. Got a bit more abstract here this week with the losers because I was struggling. There weren't too many teams based off my preseason predictions who have really, like their week 2 result really changed my opinion. So I'm going with a position here, and it's just quarterbacks in general. I don't think many quarterbacks had a good weekend. 6 of the starters have come away with injury designations. Some have been downgraded since then. We've already lost Fitz from last week, and 9 QBs had 2 or more turnovers. So it just was not a good one at all, especially for the young quarterbacks. We saw Herbert not have the greatest game in terms of his box score. Joe Burrow had 3 interceptions in 3 plays, and then the rookies like Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence had absolute stinkers. So I know they're in shit situations, and I'm not saying they're shit players, but they just didn't play well on the weekend. So yeah, there weren't many quarterbacks coming out of it with a smile on their face, and yeah, that's quite rare because usually we're just frothing all the quarterbacks, but. Yeah, I don't think too many had a good weekend. Then the only team I will pick on this week is the Miami Dolphins. I think I predicted them to win about 12 matches this year. And I'm okay with them losing to the Bills. I expect the Bills to beat them, but to lose 35-0 is like actually fucked. And they played in the last round of the regular season last year, and they also lost by a similar margin. So especially at home, like it's just not on. I was listening to a Pro Football Focus podcast, and they actually said statistically their O-line had the worst performance ever recorded by any O-line ever. So, well, I assume since they started recording stats, which I'm not sure when that is. So, yeah, that's pretty outrageous. Obviously, Tua got hurt, but even before he left the game injured, like they were doing nothing. I think he got sacked twice and he only had like 4 attempts. So, yeah, Jacoby Brissett came in, struggled, but yeah, not good signs for Miami. It's not the end of the world. They beat the Patriots last year, but this is something they've definitely got to get over because obviously they play the Bills twice a year and it's not good to just be getting pumped like this. And then finally, the officials. I think they had a bit of a stinker this weekend. 2 notable calls.
Agree.
The Julio touchdown. First of all, I think this rule's absolute rubbish. So for those who didn't know what happened, the rule is like you can do like the toe tap, so you have to get both feet in. But if you plant your toe and then proceed to like plant the rest of your foot, your heel has to be in as well. Like, so you could you can toe tap and have your toe in, but then if you put your heel down and that's out, it doesn't count as a catch, which I just don't think that makes any sense. Like if your toes were in the first place, I think you're all good. Anyway, so they claimed that his heel came down the line. They went to the replays. Took maybe 4 minutes to review it. It went up as a touchdown. There was absolutely no clear evidence either way. I'll admit you couldn't tell that it was definitely a touchdown or it wasn't. and they said that was conclusive enough to call it a non-touchdown. So yeah, I don't know. Thankfully, it didn't cost them the game because they came home and took the chockies thanks to the Seattle kicker missing an extra point earlier on the game. But yeah, that was a bit of a stinker. And then also the Chargers-Cowboys game. I have to say the officials really took the fun out of this one. Like, it was still a good game in the end, but there was just so many fouls. It was actually outrageous. I think the Chargers had about 13. They had 2 touchdowns called back, but the bad call was Herbert was running back in, I think it was might have been their last offensive drive. He was running back about 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, tried to get a throwaway, and you could probably argue it was intentional grounding because the ball was like nowhere near anyone, but they claimed that he got sacked just because he was like moving backwards while throwing it, even though that happens. Like, if you just watch Mahomes, he throws it like 5 times a game moving backwards. But yeah, that was a pretty average call at a crucial point. I don't think it really cost them the game, but I think they let themselves down with some ill discipline. But yeah, that was pretty frustrating. I don't think, and those 2 calls were like in the space of about 20 minutes as well. So yeah, it wasn't their finest hour for the officials. Pilch, who are your biggest losers, mate?
And obviously the officials robbed the Giants on Thursday night footy
I did
as well.
forget about that one. Yep.
But my 2 losers going to have to say the Saints, purely because their offense, their entire offense just stinks, and just awful loss to the Panthers. And then Vikings, not necessarily because they played badly, but the kickers missed a 25-yarder to win the game, and they've pretty much just cooked their entire playoff chances based off that one kick. So not good. Not good if you're a Vikings fan.
Yeah, and they've got a tough schedule coming up. And I didn't actually know this, but apparently they have quite an extensive history of bad kicking chokes. So that would not have been fun viewing. It was a shame because of that. We didn't get to see that game on TV here in Australia, but it looked like a really interesting game until the 4th quarter. Both teams sort of just shut the bed. But yeah, Minnesota have not looked the worst in the first 2 rounds. But yeah, as you said, playoffs are pretty much already ruled out this early in the season for them. Kurt, who are your losers, mate?
I've got a couple of different ones. First one's got to be the Jets and Wilson. Obviously, it was a bit of a stinker for the majority of the rookies this week in the QB area. But he had 4 ints, 0 touchdowns, looked pretty woeful, and got a bit of a, I wouldn't say a ripping or talking to from the coach. But, he said he needs to learn to play some boring football sometimes, which is a bit of a statement, I think. And then finally, I got the Saints and Winston. Winston returned back to his old self, which was a worry for the Saints. He went 11 of 22 and had 2 interceptions while having no touchdowns. So I think if the Saints are going to be good this year, it's going to be up to Winston. So they need to ensure that he's back to throwing TDs and limiting those interceptions.
Yeah, like, I just don't know what happened in that game, to be honest. Like, after watching them in week 1, like, that's just crazy. I know the Panthers' defense played really, really well, but yeah, the Saints' O-line was cooked. I think Kamara had about 8 yards from 5 carries or 5 yards from 8 carries, something like that. Yeah, they just couldn't move anything, the Saints. But yeah, that's a bit disappointing. They've got a massive matchup this week against the Patriots, which will be a big clash of arguably the 2 best coaches in the competition. Awards time. Time to crown some champions of week 2. I'll let Pilcher run us off here, mate. Who are your award winners for the week?
So we're doing AFC and NFC offensive players of the week.
Yep.
Yep. So I've gone Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones, just both enormous games. Jones 4 touchdowns, 3 of them receiving touchdowns, which was quite interesting. And then Henry, just his usual self, pretty much put the entire team on his shoulders. No way they would have got even close to the Seahawks without him. And then my offensive rookie of the week, I've given it to Rondale Moore, who looks like an absolute beast of a receiver for the Cardinals. And looks like Kyler Murray really likes him as well.
Yeah, I'll just jump in because I have him as well. I'll give you some information about who he is. So he's 5'7", automatically not the ideal height to be a receiver, but he's absolutely rapid. Second round pick. Then I did some background research. He made a few publications, All-American College Team in 2018. This was, I think, his first year in college football. He actually had the most receptions in the whole of college football. And this was his first year of college football. He had about 114 receptions. And I looked at the kind of people who've cracked 100 since 2017, and they include Jefferson, Pittman, Gallup, and Devontae Smith. So he's in good company there. Since then, in college, he only played 7 games because of injury, and then last year he opted out because of COVID. So in the second round, he could be an absolute steal for Arizona. He had 114 yards, including a 77-yard TD. He also scored another touchdown that got brought back off a little shovel play. So he looks like a pretty interesting weapon that Arizona can use. But yeah, I thought I'd just provide a bit of info on that. GM, Kurt, who are your award winners?
AFC Play of the Week had me man Carr, as I said before, serious MVP convo, and I think he's showing that he actually is one of the elite QBs in the comp, despite being on what in the past has been a pretty average team with a dog shit defense. So I think he is showing some prospects there, returning to that MVP form of a few years ago when he was in the conversation. NFC Play of the Week, I had myself Kyler Murray, had 400 yards, 3 TDs, 2 ints, and also had a rushing TD. So absolute bowler, being a big play on the fantasy as well. And for Offensive Rookie of the Week, I had myself Mac Jones. He had a pretty boring game, but he kind of did it in that Patriots way where he didn't turn the footy over, had 22 of 30 completions, and had 186 yards. So I think he deserves a bit of credit there, and that's his first win in the NFL.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know why, I just remember this. I heard this on a podcast today because of the hurricane that went through New Orleans. The Saints have been on the road for 5 weeks, and they were saying that was a big factor behind the weekend's capitulation. But yeah, Mac Jones could tear them a new one on the weekend. We'll see. My award winners, the NFC, I had Cooper Kupp, 163 yards from 9 catches, 2 touchdowns, a huge reason. Probably the difference really between the Rams and the Colts. Obviously, Wentz went down late. That probably didn't help the Colts' chances, but already looks like him and Stafford are boys from way back. Another one who I thought deserved to mention was Tony Pollard. I think without him, the Chargers win that game. You had 109 yards from 13 carries, including a touchdown, 31 yards from 3 catches. He looks insane, and looks like it's almost going to be a bit of a timeshare there because Pollard's just that good when he gets involved. Then in the AFC, obviously Derrick Henry, just having 35 carries alone is ridiculous, but to have 5.2 yards per carry on those, that volume is insane. Also had 55 yards in the air, which is not bad for someone who apparently can't catch the ball. 3 touchdowns as well. And yeah, as Pilch said, just guided the boys home. I have to say, I didn't bag him out, but I was saying the Titans were running the ball too much. But I obviously forgot that he's an absolute fourth quarter beast when it comes to just wearing them down. And him and Tanner's put on a bit of a show in overtime and the last quarter in terms of those final drives. They just couldn't make an error, really. And then Defensive Player of the Week, I went with the rookie defensive end, actually, Gregory Rousseau. Never heard of the bloke in my life. Obviously, he's a rookie, but he was part of the Buffalo front that destroyed the Miami O-line. So I thought a Buffalo man deserved it. He had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for a loss. So yeah, pretty impressive there. And also shout out to Mike Edwards, who had 2 pick sixes for Tampa in the space of about 3 minutes. Even though the second one was pretty dodgy because someone just blocked the pass and it just flew up in the air and he just came and caught it and ran it in. But yeah, still pretty impressive to do that. All right, on to the Week 3 preview. Feels weird just jumping straight from a Week 2 review to a Week 3 preview, but I've actually been I'm going to tally our results for the season. the sure bet upset and the betting spreads that we pick. We had a pretty good week in round one. We got all of our sure bets, most of our upsets, thanks to the Dallas Cowboys, and then the spreads, bit of a different story. Pilch did all right. He was in the positive, me and Kurt, not so much, but we'll try and rewrite those wrongs this week. All right, sure bet, boys. Curtis, who are you locking in here?
Got the Cardinals over the Jags. Jags look pretty dog shit in that first week. So, in first and second week, to be fair. So, gonna back those Cardinals with a big performance from Kyler again.
Yeah, assuming that one's not televised in Australia. I want to see Arizona so bad. They're like one of my favorite teams to watch, but if they're going to keep playing the Jags, I don't think we're going to get to watch them anytime soon. Pilch, who's your sure bet, mate?
Exactly the same, mate. Cardinals over the Jags.
Yeah, fair enough. So I think we can pencil those two in. I've gone differently. That was the only other one I was contemplating. As Curtis was saying to me off air before, there's actually not that many this week, but I've gone the Thursday night game. I just think with the Tyrod Taylor injury. By the way, shout outs to Tyrod Taylor. Like, actually shocking luck. I think this is the third year in 4 that he's injured himself in week 2 and lost the starting role. It just sucks for him. Obviously, he had at the Chargers last year and then in 2018 with Baker. And he was actually looking all right. But I just think, like, no criticism to this new bloke, but pretty much, it is his first start up against a red-hot defense. I just don't see a world where Houston get the dub. And it is Thursday night footy. I don't like picking things on Thursday night footy because it's always a little bit unpredictable because it's usually lower scoring and stuff like that because of the short turnaround. But yeah, surely Houston aren't scoring double-digit points here. And I tell you what, I'm not looking forward to that game at all. Upset of the week, I'll start us off. I've been back and forward with this one all day since I picked it. But I'm backing in my gut here. I've gone with the Packers to beat the 49ers. First game in San Fran for the year. And the Packers are paying $2.48. I was just looking up some stats because obviously Aaron Rodgers has the whole thing with 49ers because he grew up in the area, supported them. They had picked 1 in the draft that Rodgers went and they took Alex Smith over him, and then Rodgers famously slid all the way down to 24th. So, wanted to have a look at the history there, and he averages a passer rating of 107 against San Francisco. So, I'm backing in a Rodgers clinic. I don't think it's a fact that San Fran's offense did not look good at all against Philadelphia. And the Packers defense isn't in great form at the moment, but I'll back them in to get over the line in an interesting one. So that's my upset of the week. Pilch, who are you locking in here?
Once again, exactly the same. I think Packers are a very good chance to beat the Niners just because Rodgers is back and they looked back to their best against Detroit.
Yeah, it should be an interesting matchup because both sides, the two matchups, if you get what I mean, are sort of in similar form. Like the 49ers offense hasn't hit their straps yet. And, they played well in week 1, but it was against Detroit. And then the Packers defense hasn't. But then on the other side of the ball, the Packers O and the 49ers D both look pretty good based on the weekend's action. Curtis, I'm assuming you're not locking that in because you are a 49ers man. So I'm interested to hear what you've gone with.
Gone for a bit of a rogue one. I've gone the Chargers over the Chiefs. Just back Herb in this week. Eckler looked himself last week. I've got some serious confidence in the Herb given last year's performance against the Chiefs. I think the Chargers, I wouldn't say are the real deal, but I think they're solid. They're a solid team and they can knock off the top dogs on any given day.
Yeah, it's an interesting one from you. I have to say it was tough. That was one of the ones I thought of. But the only thing I don't like about it is that the Chiefs lost last week. I just don't think they'll lose back-to-back games, but Herbert's a freaking wep, so anything could happen.
Know, mate. You never know.
All right, spreads time. I went pretty much 1 from 5 last week, so I need to rewrite my wrongs. I've gone fewer this week, so hopefully that means I've concentrated my picks more and just gone with the good ones. My first one is Arizona. The line is 7.5. They're obviously favorites. They're playing at Jacksonville. All my picks this week are away teams, so maybe I'm just a fool and not factoring that in. But I reckon, as Curtis said with the short bet, I just think, both of you said with the short bet, I just think it's pretty much a lock W, and 7.5's not much. That's only just pretty much a converted touchdown and a field goal. So yeah, I backed them in. And then my other two are underdogs. This is a rogue one because they obviously put on an absolute stinker on the weekend. But the Jets at the Broncos, the line's 10.5. Both have great defenses, and that's what I'm hoping keeps it low scoring. And hopefully that's why the margin is less than 10.5. Obviously, wouldn't pick the Jets in head to head, but I can foresee it being like a cheeky 19-12 sort of situation here. 4 interceptions for the game. Stiff on Teddy. And then my final one, Bears at the Browns. Browns have a few injuries like Jarvis Landry and stuff. Not sure if Odell's going to play. I think they will make him play. But more importantly, the Bears defense looks really, really, really hot right now. I know Stafford exposed them a couple times on the weekend, but I think all in all, it's a good defense. The Browns weren't that convincing, actually, in their dispatching of the Texans on the weekend. I wanted a bit more, a 20-30 point dub there, not necessarily a 10-point dub. So, Bears, the line's 7.5, and I reckon they could keep it close in Cleveland. Curtis, what are your spreads that you like?
I wasn't really a fan of many, to be fair. So I just had the one, the Ravens at -7.5. Can just see them winning by a bit more than that. But yeah, I wasn't really a fan of any, to be fair. So I just kept it to that single one.
Yeah, I found this week a bit tougher in all sort of all sections, but then again, I cooked it last week, so maybe last week was hard and I was just a baker. But Pilch, who are you going with here, mate?
Naturally, Cardinals -7.5 and Packers +3.5, and then I'm going to go Indy +5.5 against the Titans. Just think that'll be a close game, divisional matchup. I think 5.5's too big.
Yeah, I tell you what, if I didn't have question marks about Wentz's health, that was going to be my upset of the week. I definitely think that's a sniff. I'm a little bit concerned about Wentzzy, but
not concerned about Wentz because he stinks, so the backup won't make a difference.
Well, I mean, they'll play Wentz, and he'll just be at 20% of Wentz, so that's not positive.
Now that is a worry.
Yeah, that was my concern, but you could be right. They could rule him out, but I do like that one. I think, the Colts hopefully can put a stop to Derrick Henry. You think they would have a way, given that they have a good defense and their division rivals. But that's going to be a huge game. It's only week 3, but that's one of the closer division titles, in my opinion. I had the Colts actually taking it this year after a couple years of Titans getting up. So, yeah, that's going to be a big one. AJ Brown looking for a bit of a bounce-back game after a stinker on the weekend. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to watch. As I keep saying, hopefully that's televised in Australia. I don't think the schedule's come out for the TV yet. But, so that will do us for today for the NFL, I almost said NRL, for the NFL review and preview episode. If you feel like it, feel free to check out the fantasy one that we're just about to record. But thanks for joining me, lads, and we'll catch you next time.
Cheers, mate.